have the greatest job in the world, and that's working with dogs.
Best in Show winner is the French Bulldog.
Winston won the National Dog Show. It was amazing. It was exciting. And to have a dog to be #1 dog in this country, you have to have great nutrition. And I always fed Pro Plan. Just like us, when we eat well, we feel good. And I just love that food and what it's done all these years to all the dogs I've bred and all the dogs I've shown.
Welcome to Pure Dog Talk. I am your host, Laura Reeves, and you guys, I'm really excited. We have Stephanie Montgomery today from AKC Canine Health Foundation, and I have had a number of conversations with folks over the course of time here on Pure Dog Talk with about CHF, about what they're doing, about all the fun stuff. But this is the first time I've gotten to talk to Stephanie, and she's been here, she's gotten settled, she's ready to roll. So welcome, Stephanie. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So give us the, as they say, 411, how you wound up here.
Sure. So I would say my love for dogs started early. When I was in the 4th grade, our family got a pet Cairn Terrier, and kind of the rest is history from there. I was instantly in love with dogs. I got a subscription to Dog Fancy magazine, if those of us who remember that.
Yep.
And then I grew up outside of Chicago, and I would ask my parents to take me on the train into the city to see the International Kennel Club dog show that was being held there. And from there, I also loved science and ended up starting my career as a scientist. I have a background in infectious disease and studied highly pathogenic viruses. Then I went to veterinary school. And then after that, I specialized in pathology. And so today, of course, I still have dogs. Today I have Airedale Terriers. I have one here with me today in the office at Canine Health Foundation.
Back there.
Yeah, that's right. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, from there, I was able to kind of blend my passion for science and dogs and started volunteering for the Canine Health Foundation as a scientific reviewer. And then I always say I'm a failed volunteer because now I'm working here.
Well, that's definitely a failure. I mean, but now you're getting paid to do what you love. So that doesn't seem all bad. That doesn't seem all bad. And so you started at Canine Health Foundation, what, like 2 years ago, a year ago?
Yeah, that's right. Almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. And we've got a lot to talk about, but what are you, like, if you had to pick one thing that you're most excited about going forward?
Wow, it is hard to pick one thing, isn't it?
I know, right?
Well, certainly, it's really impressive when you work here, when you look back at all the history that the Canine Health Foundation has done and the impact we've had for dogs. It is hard to pick one thing, but perhaps I'd like to focus on that we are really investing in early career researchers. So want to spotlight that we want to develop tomorrow's canine health research superstars. And so in the last couple of years, with all the pressures of society and changes in how we work and all those things, we want to continue to send a loud message to those folks who are starting their careers and are going to be the hope that we have for our dogs and for the people who are doing the research. So really excited that we're sending that message out.
Very, very cool. I know I do some work with some of the local veterinary colleges, talking to them about the stuff and how AKC and AKC Canine Health Foundation has a thing for them, has stuff, has a future. So give us a little background for people that didn't catch some of the previous episodes that we did on Canine Health Foundation. Give us a little background. It's been around 30 years, right?
That's right. We are celebrating our 30th year anniversary this year. Founded in 1995. And what I'm so impressed by was that folks had this vision. And so what we do is we fundraise, right? And we distribute that money to fund the best research that will advance the health of all dogs. So we do that through awarding grants to researchers that tend to be at veterinary schools.
Right.
And when we evaluate those grants, we want to find the most cutting edge research that's going to have the biggest impact on dogs. And that's what we've done for 30 years.
Amazing. And you've raised and spent a relatively mind-boggling amount of money in that time.
It is. It's so impressive. $75 million. We've
Right.
passed that mark, and it's all done by folks like you and me who love dogs
Mhm.
and want to give back.
Mhm. Yeah, to me, I've always just been amazed by the amount of money. What, like $18 million just on cancer research? I mean, that's
That's
incredible.
100%. I think so many of us have been moved by cancer touching our dogs and our lives, and people who want to give back and try to make it a better world for the dogs that come in the next generation.
Mm.
It's so moving to work with these people.
Yeah, and having personally encountered a number of different cancers and different breeds, it's a lot. And I guess we were talking a little bit off air. I did not realize that the Canine Health Foundation was involved in the work that they did at Fred Hutchinson to develop the canine genome, which is huge because it is the basis of so much of what we're able to do now with DNA testing that we didn't have prior to 95.
You got that exactly right. So, right, prior to 1995, when CHF started, there was no dog genome. And it was about 10 years later that that was completed. The human genome had only been completed 2 years prior,
Yeah.
and it was pivotal. It changed the way that we could look at genetic testing and evolution of dogs and develop tools in veterinary medicine.
Yeah, to me it is just incredible to think about because some of us here straddle that line, right? And there's going to be a time that and I think it is there today that new breeders that are less than 20 years in their breeds never knew a world that they didn't have a DNA test for color, for eye diseases, for whatever amazing things that they've been able to accomplish because they were able to sequence that genome.
It is amazing to think about a world before that. It's hard to fathom anymore.
It's true. I mean, I know people who have been involved, say for example, is one of my favorite examples, Basenji's, where they had to go to Africa, to the Congo, to get new dogs to try and clear Fanconi's disease that now there's a DNA test for. What?
Crazy.
To me, it really is. And I just think that that's such an important piece of work that Canine Health Foundation did, right?
Yeah, and we partnered with other groups. Back then, especially, it was such a slower process, more expensive. We could have never done it alone, but very proud of the outcome and certainly the impact it's had on our dogs.
And I think another one of the projects that, again, I don't think people really realize, Canine Health Foundation has been really involved, and I know that the AKC has been really involved in the work with the working dogs, right, that were at the World Trade Center, that were at the Pentagon on 9/11. And that lifetime study on those dogs. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that, again, is something I really don't think people know exists.
Yeah, what was so neat about that, again, the vision that folks had.
Mhm.
So this work was done out of Penn Vet Working Dog Center,
Mhm.
and followed all of the working dogs that were deployed on 9/11 to the
Right.
World Trade Center to the Pentagon. And one of the amazing things about that is that it was the first completed lifetime study on dogs. And we all know of a couple other ones now that are ongoing.
Right. The golden
But this
retrievers.
one,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Dog aging project.
Hmm.
And this was kind of the first one. And those dogs, they were all followed out throughout their lifetime. And for me, the beautiful part of that story was that those dogs did not die of an increased risk of cancer, much different than the humans who were deployed to those sites. So
Yeah.
those dogs lived a normal lifespan. They succumbed to normal dog diseases.
Wow.
And so it's kind of a beautiful story where they gave so much at that time in their life, but they didn't have to give their life back to us in
Right.
that
Right.
sense.
Right.
Hmm.
And I think that is fascinating. Has anybody posited why that is? Because some of the cancers from the survivors, I mean, it is insane. And
Yeah.
I mean, right now I have goosebumps. I had not heard that the dogs didn't have those same effects.
Yeah, it is really goosebumps is the right way to describe
Yeah.
it when you think about it.
Yeah.
We don't know why, and I think a lot of us do like to think of reasons why it might
Mhm.
be, but the truth is we'd have to study it more to know. Certainly, the exposure that they have is slightly different than
Mhm.
humans. You could argue like it's interesting that their noses are really in the debris
Mhm.
more so than ours would have been. However, they perhaps weren't on site as long, or perhaps it was something different about the physiology differences between humans and dogs. But we don't know that piece of the puzzle.
Wow. That is amazing.
Mhm.
Okay. So it Canine Health Foundation works. You've got your fingers in a lot of pies. I mean, what was the stat in here? 145 different research institutions that have been funded, 1,000 publications, lots and lots of little steps. And I am not a sciencey person. I'm a word person. I don't do sciencey stuff. But my understanding of it is that lots and lots and lots of baby steps make big leaps forward. So can you kind of talk to how that where you feel like you're not getting anywhere, but in reality you are?
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. So, not every study is going to be the lifetime
Hmm.
study of working dogs on
Right.
9/11, right? And so much of science is nudging our understanding forward and building on it.
Hmm.
And probably one of the most exciting and frustrating things about science is every time you answer one question, you have so many more that
Right.
you open up.
Right.
And so that means that our work is never done.
Yeah.
But hopefully, along the way, we're able to advance our understanding and make a greater impact for dogs. And so much of the work we do may not make those headlines, but is important at putting one step in front of the other when it
Hmm.
comes to that scientific progress.
Hmm. Well, and it shows in things like the genome study, right? Where lots and lots of work had been done, and you have to do the pieces, like, to get to the places.
Absolutely. And one thing to think about too is if Canine Health Foundation weren't here to fund that work, who would be doing it?
Right.
There's a couple other organizations, but many things that are very specific to our dogs, other organizations aren't going to have the interest in funding.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think, Stephanie, you're so on point with that because we talk all the time. There's tons and tons of money that goes into research in like horses, right? Or cows, when you talk about animals, and lots that goes obviously onto the human side. But dogs just don't, they don't get a lot of love. So I think that is why Canine Health Foundation can make the difference that it makes. Um, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I was just thinking my
Oh,
next question.
y- yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, um, yes, and what I'm so impressed by is that it really is driven by people like you and me who loved our dogs, and we invest our money in making an impact for dogs by building a healthier future for them.
Yeah, for real. I look at, I just lost, about a year ago, I lost a wire hair pointer to transitional cell carcinoma. Like, never been seen in the breed. Like, where does that come from? Right? That's the kind of thing you want to know the answer. Like, somebody helped me figure out why I lost my dog at 7 years old. And that emotional impact, you can't, that's what drives so much of the funding at CHF.
You hit it on the head, and even those of us who work on it, right? We feel the same thing. We love our dogs too. We want those answers, and all the researchers who are working on it, so grateful for all the hard work they're putting in.
Trupanion is revolutionizing medical insurance for pets by providing the best possible experience to our members. And it's not some space-age dream. It's happening now. We pay your veterinarian directly while you're checking out, and we're the only ones who can, which means you have decisions in seconds, and you don't have to wait for reimbursement. So unlike with other providers, you'll keep more money in your pocket. Ask your veterinarian if Trupanion can pay them directly, because there's pet insurance, and then there's Trupanion.
Well, and you've got some projects going right now, looking at, and I just wanted to have you speak on some of these because there's some really, really, impactful stuff here. The mitral valve disease studies. Talk to us about that because that's in University of Illinois. Sorry.
Yeah, we have a couple ones that started last year. One was at Tufts, one was at the University of Illinois. I'm so happy to see these proposals come through and the work being done because mitral valve disease is so common in all of the dogs.
Yeah.
I'm a pathologist, and the number of older dogs that don't have some mitral valve disease is really next to none. They all have it. And we understand so little about it, even though it's so common. And so I'm so excited that we have new studies going that help us understand the physiology of how this disease develops. It will help us identify targets for future therapies. We also have studies on how to best diagnose and monitor progression. So maybe we can make a difference and impact all these dogs that have mitral valve disease.
And sorry, Stephanie, I think that to me, one of the real values that I don't know gets communicated out often enough is mitral valve disease is a perfect example. This doesn't just affect purebred dogs. This is purebred dog people funding the work for everyone's pet.
I love that you bring this up. It's one of the things that is so meaningful to me. When we think back to the 30-year history of Canine Health Foundation, I'm so impressed that people in the purebred dog world had this vision, made it come to life, sustained it for 30 years. Yes, it benefits purebred dogs and also benefits all dogs and veterinary medicine. And one of the things that's really important to us at Canine Health Foundation, as you're pointing out, is that we get that message out that yes, this vision was started by people who cared so much, were passionate about purebred dogs, but anyone can join our mission. And anyone who loves dogs will love our mission.
And will benefit from your mission. I mean,
That's
most
right.
importantly, and I think, there's a number of people and that we talk about this and how do we talk to the public? How do we talk to John Q. Public, the average person on the street who owns a pet, and help them understand why purebred dogs and dog breeders matter? Why the American Kennel Club matters? Because without us, this work isn't happening.
Totally. This is the Canine Health Foundation is one of the amazing things the American Kennel Club has done over the years. The investment they've made in the Canine Health Foundation, it is in the name because they are our biggest supporter. They founded this, they had the vision, they brought it to life, they've stewarded it for so many years. And 100%, it benefits all dogs. And whether or not you are for purebreds or not doesn't matter when it comes to these diseases. All of our dogs get it. It does not discriminate, and this is the hope that we have to go forward.
Yeah. Some of the other studies that we were kind of looking through when we're talking about it, one of the ones that I thought was really interesting is on degenerative myelopathy, another, weird disease that I have seen pop up in weird places. Can you look at, you're talking about an FDA approved drug for this? I mean, is this something that we can actually look forward to soon?
Yeah, this is a neat study that's going on at the University of Missouri. And what the researchers there are doing is there is an FDA approved drug called Riluzole that is approved in humans for ALS. And it's not been looked at or widely used in dogs or in veterinary medicine. And ALS, or Lou Gehrig disease, has some similarities to degenerative myelopathy in dogs. And so this FDA approved drug is basically a neuroprotective drug, and it's shown to slow the progression of ALS in humans. And so basically that's what this study is doing in dogs. Since it's been so effective and for human disease, would it help our dogs who unfortunately get diagnosed with degenerative myelopathy?
Right. That is fascinating. Can you say more about the science on this? Because I think people may not be getting the connection that ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, right? And degenerative myelopathy, it's all affecting the nervous system.
Yeah, that's right. And so, the nervous system is really difficult to study. It's hard to get to. It's, something goes a little bit wrong and you get really remarkable effects, unfortunately, and it can really be hard to get in front of a disease. So when you have a drug that comes along like this and is FDA approved, it certainly brings hope to humans. And I think we're trying to see if we can bring that same hope to our dogs as well, because there's so little available to us for a disease that's going to continue to progress.
Yeah, truly, and is devastating for the animals.
Absolutely. We've made some progress on the genetics of degenerative myelopathy over the years, and some of the listeners may be familiar with that. But less so on, if you can't prevent it through genetics, what can you do once a dog is diagnosed? And since this drug is bringing so much hope to humans, can we do that in our dogs as well?
And offer treatment for it. Wow, crazy. Yeah. And are you early on in this? You don't have any early results?
I don't. No teasers to share.
Know,
it's
man.
A fairly yeah. It's a fairly new study, so hopefully I can come back in a couple years with good news.
Awesome. That's incredible. And okay, so this one, I'm dying to know this one, because obviously I have bird dogs. They swim. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, wait, what? So freshwater fluke parasite. And talk to me about this, because this is wild. This Texas A&M study.
Yes. So this kind of got a bit of press. I believe it was a year or two ago. There's a trematode, which is a parasite. It's called a fluke. The Latin name is Heterobilharzia americana. And it's a fluke that's in fresh water. And the reason why it made the news in more recently is it's always been a parasite in freshwater, kind of in areas in the deep south. This study is out of Texas A&M that we're going to talk about. But it was identified out in California in the Colorado River, and it was perplexing folks because they didn't think this disease existed there. So the take home of it is that the range of where this parasite is in water is expanding. And so sometimes it's not on a clinician's radar that when a dog gets sick, that could be this parasite. And so it's known that it's more likely to be identified in Labrador retrievers. And that's the study that's going on at Texas A&M. And the question is, is it more likely in our Labrador retrievers because they're the ones jumping in the water with these higher risk behaviors and doing all the cool things that they do in freshwater? Or, is there something that truly, makes them more predisposed to it? And so first, just looking at a prevalent study, how often do Labradors have it? And we may not even know.
That is wild. So do you have the information? Can you talk about what symptoms, what disease process this particular parasite is causing?
Yes. So dogs get chronic diarrhea, vomiting, weight loss, and then, when you take your dog to the vet with these symptoms, it can be a lot of different things.
Right.
The vet might pick up on blood work that the liver enzymes are up, and they can detect this parasite either through a fecal test or PCR testing maybe an ultrasound. You can treat it with anti-parasitic drugs, but the problem becomes if the parasites are so far progressed in the liver, in the dog, it can be a challenging disease to treat.
Wow. I, again, have not heard about this one. And is this something that then it has like long-term very negative consequences, I assume, for the dog if the parasite is impacting the liver and that sort of thing?
Yeah, the challenge is that the parasites in the water, and it's got this
Mm.
really complicated life cycle, and snails are involved. And that's probably a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
But
I really want to know about the snails and the parasites, and they're like, now I am like obsessed. So
yeah. And so your dog gets it either drinking in this water or having fun in this water, and then unfortunately the parasites travel through the bloodstream, they settle in the liver and grow. And as the parasites mature into adults, that's when you start to see the problems pop up. So I think a big challenge now, especially
mm,
knowing that we have an expanding range where dogs can
mm,
get this disease,
mm.
is kind of that public awareness, getting the
Yeah.
word out to monitor your dogs and look for symptoms.
I mean, you understand what I come from. I come from a background of sporting dogs. They're in fresh water a lot. They retrieve things in water, right? Like this is a big part of our lives that has serious complications, and this is something for folks to know. Weird
Absolutely. And
liver
imagine,
flukes.
that's right. Imagine if you, right, were one of those folks in California and had
Mhm.
no idea,
Yeah.
this wasn't something on your radar at all. And
I
so
live
I
in
think
Southern Oregon. California is like
it,
across the street sort of thing.
that's right. That's right. And it was perplexing clinicians at the time, when it was first getting diagnosed, because,
Mhm.
as veterinarians, we might ask, well, have you traveled with your dog to one of those areas? But, these days you have to also wonder if the parasite itself it has an expanded range.
Interesting. Fresh water, standing water, running water, doesn't matter.
That's right.
Interesting. Okay. Crazy talk, people. Crazy talk. Okay, so the other one, and I've had a couple people put this in my ear, and I just wanted to touch on it. Sports medicine residencies. This seems to be kind of a growing area of discussion as people are more involved in more, other than field trials type of sports activities, right? It's involving many more breeds of dogs. So how is this coming about, this particular, the residencies for the sports medicine vets?
Yeah. So Canine Health Foundation has supported residencies in theratogenology for years,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and more recently, now also supporting residents to train in canine sports medicine and rehabilitation. So in veterinary medicine, it's a fairly new
Yeah.
discipline. It's
Yeah.
maybe 10 to 15 years old, which is new still.
Mm.
And we want to send a loud message with the support of the AKC that we support that discipline. We want to help grow it and increase the number of evidence-based research that's supporting the whole discipline. And I think you understand with your dogs and all they do, the benefit to being able to recover from an injury faster, prevent injuries, and
Yeah.
even in our aging dogs or after surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Could you ever imagine coming out of a major surgery as a human without being, having some kind of
Right.
physical therapy
Right.
plan, right?
Right.
And
Interesting.
yeah,
Are they incorporating the sports medicine? Are they incorporating things like maybe non-traditional medicine, chiropractic or acupuncture, or are they just working strictly in the Western medicine, I guess, department?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think this is the area of understanding that there's benefit to different
Mm-hmm.
approaches, and
Mm-hmm.
so much of this is unexplored. So a lot of these new modalities that are coming up, so many vets do laser treatments
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and all sorts of things along those lines, and which injuries are they the best for at which stage. There's so much research that we can do to really increase the impact that we have for protecting our dogs from injuries and helping them recover and become stronger after. any kind of injury or surgery.
I love it. That's good work. Okay, final one. Final question. Listeners, Stephanie is going to tell us what the mystery respiratory pathogen is, because now I'm all aflutter. Because you're killing me here.
Yeah, so we all remember a couple years ago when everybody got very worried about what is this mystery respiratory pathogen. And we are really happy to be able to fund some of the research that is looking at whether or not there's a new respiratory pathogen or not. This work is being done at the University of New Hampshire. And
That's annoying.
basically yeah, I know, right? We have a great researcher out there who was at the forefront of this and has all these specimens collected from these dogs, and basically using all the genetic techniques that are cutting edge these days. There seems to be some sort of a bacterium that is present in the respiratory tract of these dogs, and maybe it's benign and host adapted and part of the normal canine microbiome in the respiratory tract. But it seems like sometimes it has developed the capacity to cause disease. The challenge is proving whether or not that pathogen that's there in the tract is actually causing the disease, and that takes a long time to do. So they're kind of on a lead of a potentially new pathogen, but there's a lot of caution that the data is still preliminary, and we still need to establish if there's a definitive link between that bacterium and the respiratory disease.
Okay, see, this is why I'm a newspaper reporter and not a scientist, because I want to know right now.
We all do, honestly.
Is this related to that, like 23, they had that big sort of weird dog flu outbreak at the Golden National, and it went all across the country and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah, some of those samples come out of this, and from all over the country are feeding into this. And yes, that the common respiratory pathogens weren't testing positive on these dogs. And so now it's, can we find what it is instead of those things?
Well, there you go. Canine Health Foundation is on the trail. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we like you said earlier, we have our hands in all these different projects. Every day is interesting, and I think we're really delighted that we're able to do so much good for the dogs that give us so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, Stephanie, happy 30th anniversary.
Well, thank you. I will pass the word on to everyone here. We're delighted that we reached 30, and we're excited about the next 30.
Awesome.